So joining me today is Jo Whitton, creator of Quirky Cooking, a superstar when it comes to home cooking. Hi Jo, how are you?
Hi, good.
That's
Good to see
good.
you.
Yeah, good to see you too. So I've invited you here to have a little chat to us about obviously getting real food on the table.
Yep.
And one of the things people say is, oh, I don't have time, or it's just too expensive to cook for lots of kids. And I thought, I know just the person to help people with these concerns. And let's see if we can convince a few people that
Okay,
it's possible. Sound good?
it is.
Great. So the first question I have for you is, while I might know, and we have the great fortune of being friends, a lot of people might not know how you actually came to be doing what you do today and
Okay.
what sort of twists and turns took you on the journey to lead you here. So there are quite a few,
Yes.
but go for it. Just
Okay. How long have you got? No, just kidding. Okay. I was raised in a family where whole foods was a natural way of life. Mum cooked everything from scratch. Breads, cakes, biscuits, main meals, snacks, everything was from scratch. We didn't have all the packets and the box cereal and all of that bought pizzas and sausage rolls and things that other kids seem to have at school. It was homemade. I'd come home from school and you'd walk in the back door and there was always something coming out of the oven. That's just how life was. The reason why it was like that was because we didn't have a lot of money, and so Mum cooked from scratch to save money. So when people tell me I can't eat healthy, it's too expensive, I'm like, wait a minute, it's actually cheaper. So I'm not really sure. It depends if you're looking at health food as I've got to buy all the convenience health foods. I've got to go to the health food shop and buy all these packets and things because I'm used to packets, so that's how I do things. Yes, that's going to be more expensive. But if you're going back to traditional ways of eating and you're cooking things from scratch and you're buying the cheaper cuts of meat and cooking them long and slow and adding some veggies in, and you've got a beautiful, delicious meal that's healthy and cheap, and it doesn't take a lot of work, it just takes time. Things like that. That's how I was raised. Mum would go to the markets on Saturdays when it was closing and get all the stuff that they were getting rid of, all the cheap stuff, and bring it home. She'd make jams and sauces and chutneys. She'd put all the stuff, divide it into boxes and share it out with people that needed it. And there was stuff to give away as well as to feed our family on a budget. So it's just shopping smart, shopping in season, all that kind of stuff. That's how I was raised. And starting from scratch and using basic ingredients. We didn't have a lot of kids these days, especially, and even when I was growing up, they have cordial and chips and lollies and all those kind of things. We didn't have all that. If we had a block of chocolate, it was one block between all six of us, and it was a very special treat. It wasn't something we had all the time. So things like that I think have come into our lives as very normal things these days, and we do spend way too much money on that kind of stuff.
I totally agree. I often talk about the normalization of cupcakes.
Yes.
And I honestly, sometimes I'm not a big coffee drinker, but every now and then I'll go and get a nice little decaf piccolo. I know, really exciting. And I'll be in the little line waiting for the coffee, and there'll be parents asking their kids to choose between the blue cupcake or the pink cupcake or whatever cupcake, and it's 8:30 in the morning.
Wow.
That's not normal. That should not be normal. At one block of chocolate should be an exciting treat between six people. Yeah. Absolutely.
And so being brought up like that was a big bonus, and I am never sorry that we were brought up with not heaps of money, because of that I learned to cook from scratch. I learned to bake bread. I learned to dry my own fruit from the leftovers from the markets on homemade fruit dryers in the backyard. I learned to do all that kind of thing. And so starting there, and then, as I got older, I was trying to stick with that kind of way of eating. I went off to uni, and I was living at a hostel and being cooked for, and it wasn't quite as good as Mum's, but it wasn't too bad. But I started to get more and more unwell, and it was mainly, I'd always had troubles with dairy, but I'd never really, at home I hadn't drunk a lot of milk. I sort of managed to just have a bit of hay fever. But as I got older and away from home and probably not eating as well, my food intolerances got worse. I started having hormone problems. I started having, acne and all this kind of stuff. And started going to a nutritionist, getting some help from them, but nothing I did really seemed to help. Nothing they said, the doctors and nutritionists and that said, it didn't help. So fast forward, marriage, 4 kids, tired, exhausted, headaches, constant colds, chest infections every month, just, itchy skin, fuzzy head, low blood sugar, all these things. It was nothing gigantically major. I go to hospital, nothing like that, but it was yuck. It was just yuck. And I thought, I'm eating as healthy as I know how. I'm grinding my own grain, making my own bread from scratch. I'm cooking as best I can. I put spinach in my lasagna, for goodness sakes.
Damn it.
All my friends think I'm weird with how I eat anyway. And so why am I not feeling better? So I ended up, I finally went and saw a chiropractor and a naturopath and started getting on track with healthy eating from a natural viewpoint, not so much like the doctors and the nutritionists. They sort of had a different way of looking at things, which didn't help me. When I started going to a chiropractor and naturopath, they were like, right, let's sit down, do a food diary, let's see what you're eating. Oh my goodness, I was eating so much bread and it was just not really working at all. Things were getting worse and worse. So I changed my diet to mostly gluten-free or very low gluten. I changed to mostly dairy-free, and also like just a little bit of butter and now and then some cheese, and lowered the sugars, and I started to get better, and it didn't really quite get me where I wanted to be. So I went totally gluten-free and totally dairy-free for 3 months and all my allergy symptoms disappeared.
Wow.
Yeah. And then, you sort of feel better. So you get a bit slack again. And so I had those ups and downs for years where I'd sort of be gluten-free-ish and dairy-free.
I was so the same. I'm like, but I'm in France. I've got to have a baguette.
And, wasn't quite well, but I wasn't too bad. Got better as the years went along. I kept, taking more out, putting more in that was good, taking more out that wasn't so good for me. But like my naturopath told me right from the start, you've got to heal the gut, all that kind of thing. But I didn't really understand all that at the time. And then just recently in the last year, we've had some major setbacks with my son's health, and it all pointed to gut issues. And I just went, right, that's it. I've heard all this stuff about gaps. I know there's problems with our gut. All our family has problems with the gut. Yeah. So let's just do gaps. And so we jumped in pretty much feet head first. I don't know. We just jumped in. I did have to go backwards a few times because I jumped in too quickly. And so I have a lot of people that I say, okay, don't start right at the start with gaps. But that's how we did it at first, and it's really helping, and I feel heaps better. So that's where we are at the moment, working towards healing the family's guts. If I can say it like that.
That's so good. And how many months in are you now?
1st of October we started properly. Before that, for 2 months, we did more of a paleo-ish kind of diet, so the grain-free and mostly dairy-free, bit of yogurt, but we were mostly grain-free since the start of, August. Yeah.
And you talked about your son's health. Have you noticed a big difference for him as well?
Yeah, I think with all the kids, because, my eldest daughter had candida really bad. She had all these unexplained symptoms that, like tingling in her face, swelling all around here. She had...
I remember, yeah.
The muscle spasms in her arms and her hands, and she'd get very dizzy and sick, and it would just come on, and there was nothing. We tried blood tests, everything, nothing came back with anything. But that is pretty much cleared up now.
Wow.
Yeah. I knew right from the start. I kept saying to her, it's gut health. We've got to get you off all the sugars. She's a real, she craves the sugars, even if it's fruit, she craves it. So that really helped. My second son, he's still struggling a bit with his allergies, but I think it's partly because he's having a lot of trouble keeping off the fruit, and I do tend to find him grabbing fruit when he's not supposed to. But he is a lot better than he was, and it's going to be a process.
Yeah.
So we're working through that. My youngest son, who was the main one that we were starting for, he seems to be a lot better. We still have ups and downs a little bit with him with anxiety, but he's so much better than he was. And I just have to keep reminding them this is a long-term project. GAPS usually is about 2 years. So little by little, they don't always see the changes themselves because it's happening slowly.
Yeah, of course.
But
and that's hard for kids. We're
it is.
invincible when we're kids. They don't get it. Yeah.
I don't need this. I don't need this. I'm like, it's already helping.
Yeah.
You know, got to wait and be patient and just keep working on it. So,
do you think that doing it all together as 6 people has been a positive?
Yes, very, very much so. It's more like 5 people though, because my husband's not really doing it. He's eating what I make, but he's also eating whatever he wants when we're not around.
Yeah.
But my kids definitely needed each other to do it because it would have felt like it's not fair. How can he have that and I can't?
Absolutely.
Much easier to do it all together.
Yeah.
And I didn't mention about me, I've definitely noticed changes. So my skin doesn't itch any.
Your skin looks amazing, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
I really notice it. It's fantastic.
Oh, that's good. But my legs used to itch so much I would scratch them till they bled, and I don't have that anymore. And I don't get the sneezing unless I go back on ghee, which sadly does not agree with me yet. I'm hoping I will be able to soon.
Yeah.
So the dairy I haven't put back in yet.
Yeah.
So,
and as you say, it is a process. And
it is.
Yeah. Oh, that's exciting. So a lot of people can follow your journey on GAPS, can't they, with your podcast? Do you want to give that a little plug while we're here before we talk co-ops?
Okay, so I have a podcast called A Quickie Journey, and my health coach is on there as my co-host, Leah, and we talk about why we began GAPS, how basically the how-tos of everyday life with GAPS, what it looks like as we're going along. She's been doing this for over 3 years with her family. She's got 2 sons that are ASD, and it's really, really made a big, big difference in their family. And they've tweaked it to suit them now, and they're just on it forever.
Yeah.
Once they got to where they needed to be, and they found that if they put anything else in, it sent everything haywire, so they've stopped where they are. So she's been a really big help to me, and we just talk about our journeys, and we also get other people on to interview to talk about their journeys. And we've got a naturopath that we recently interviewed about, how gut health affects women's health and fertility, and so all sorts of things, just gut health basically. So even if you're not doing GAPS, it's really handy for just learning about how to improve your gut health.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, great. So back to the idea of convenience and how we start to think of real food for families as being convenient and also being in reach financially. I totally agree with you when you said, only because I say too, if you go straight from conventional packets of everything to organic packets of everything, it is the most guaranteed way of tripling your shopping budget overnight, hands down. So it really is about learning how to cook and uncoolifying, if you like, packets. Because that's a huge cultural issue, especially with kids, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you, what do you consider you need to have at hand to whip up a low-cost, quick, easy meal? What are your favourite things to have in the cupboard or in the fridge?
All right, broth. First and foremost, always have broth going.
Yeah.
I generally have either some in the fridge or some on the stove or slow cooker or all 3.
Yeah.
I might have beef and chicken and, lamb at one time sometimes.
Yeah.
One, and then that will have to do. But there's always some kind of broth around. And if there's not, I can make a really quick one by simmering meat in water and I just do a bit of a cheats version and add some of that broth of life, which is the dehydrated broth.
Ah, yeah, of course.
Yeah, and chuck in some veggies, and it's better than nothing. You can add some gelatin as well, some Great Lakes gelatin, and then you've got a bit more of that in there. Yeah. But generally, I have broth on hand at all times. And so, like, for instance, get up in the morning, dip some broth out of the big pot into a small pot, grate in some veggies really quickly, like carrot, zucchini, a little bit of onion, some fresh garlic, and then maybe a few bits of meat if there's some meat in the broth. If not, don't worry about it. And crack in, once it's simmering, crack in, and the veggies are tender, add some eggs, just crack them into the simmering broth, stick a lid on for a few minutes, couple of minutes, and then you've got the eggs poached in broth with veggies. That makes a great breakfast or lunch or dinner.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's the thing, isn't it? When you're eating real food, all of a sudden dinner can be breakfast, breakfast can be dinner. It's all just real food.
Doesn't matter. Dessert can be breakfast too because it's all real food.
Yeah.
So that's something I always have on hand is broth and eggs. And the main veggies I always have in the fridge are carrots, zucchini. I always have garlic and onion. I always have broccoli because I find with carrots and broccoli you can make the sticks of florets, chuck them in the broth, simmer them so they're soft, take them out, put them in the fridge, and then that's something to snack on for kids or eat them hot. Avocado, always have avocados on hand as much as possible because that's another instant snack food and it can be added to meals. If you're okay with salad, at first in gaps you can't have salad, but once you can, any salad veggies are always great, and a tin of tuna in the cupboard.
Yeah.
Chuck that together, you've got lunch with a boiled egg, you know. And I do like to have good quality, nitrate-free, grass-fed, local bacon.
Yeah.
Because a little bit goes a long way, and I find if you don't have any meat thawed out or you don't have anything prepared, if you chop up a bit of bacon, make some scrambled eggs with bacon and a few veggies in it, or an omelette, or, you know, egg and bacon pies or something, that for some reason just having that bit of bacon in there suddenly makes it a really satisfying meal.
Makes it a treat, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
And mince. We always have mince on hand. I buy half a cow at a time and it fills my freezer, but we've always got mince because that can thaw out quickly. I just pop the whole block of mince in a pot, put some water over it, start it simmering, go do something else, come back, add a heap of grated veggies and, you know, chili, garlic, onion, some coconut aminos. It's another good thing to have on hand instead of soy sauce. And, you know, a few spices, cayenne pepper, whatever, and maybe some kelp noodles if you've got them. But if not, just the mince and veggies, heaps of veggies. And the kids think that's a great meal. So simple as anything.
Kids love mince, and it is so cheap. Sausages as well, preservative-free, gluten-free sausages.
As long as preservative-free.
Yeah.
And also with mince, we make little hamburger things and wrap them in lettuce and stuff like that. So easy meals.
Yeah, yum. Great. Now, you're obviously a member of a co-op, and this is one of the big things that helps us not only afford great quality food, but also kind of become community-oriented with our food, right? Can you just talk to us a little bit about your experience with a co-op and the benefits that you found?
Yeah, so I've been in co-ops for about 15 years, maybe 14, and I'm in a few different ones. So back when I was eating grains, I would get all my grains and rice and, you know, buckwheat and quinoa and all of that through the co-ops. Also good oils, so macadamia oil, coconut oil. You can get ghee and all that kind of thing through the co-ops. You can get everything really. You can get meat through different co-ops or like organic meat. Although living where we do, it's very easy to get good meat. So I just buy it from people that I know that have their own cows and stuff.
Yeah.
Also things like toilet paper, shampoo, conditioner, all your body products that are healthy, natural body products you can get through co-ops. Nuts, seeds, that's my main thing probably now is the nuts and the macadamia oil and the seeds. Coconut, I buy a lot of coconut because I make all my coconut creams and coconut milk and coconut yogurt and coconut everything. Coconut oil, I don't make my own coconut oil, but I buy that bulk. Let's see, what else do I buy bulk? All of those sorts of things. It just saves heaps of money. I'm in a few different co-ops, so...
Did you start one of them personally yourself?
No. I've just been in it for a long time, so I've helped. So I help. For a long time, I was the head of my area to go and divide up the order and then bring it back to my place, and then people in my area came to my place to divide up. But I've actually just let that go because I've got too much on, and half the time I don't get to the dividing up day.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, it's so good. It's really worth being in co-ops and starting one if you don't have one nearby.
Yeah, brilliant. And I'll lead everybody over to Lisa's fantastic little co-ops page that she's started. So that'll be a link at the end of today's interview. Now, I don't know that I have anything else and any other burning questions to ask, but I might leave with one last question. If you had to cook a meal for 6 people, that's your family, nice and big, and you had half an hour out of your amazing creative head, what are your top few meals that come to mind?
Okay, is this Thermomix or non-Thermomix?
It can be either, because I think they're both pretty much adaptable anyway. Yeah.
Okay, so if you're going simple, family dinner, quite often, like I said, the mince kind of things come into play if it's quick, or chicken. So one thing that I love to do is have like chicken pieces or chicken thighs or something like that, or even cut up a chicken quickly. Pop it all into a really big fry pan, like a I don't know what size is that. Big for us.
25 centimetre, yeah.
The biggest one you can find. And single layer, just pop all the chicken in, pour water over it so it's just, about that deep, barely covering the chicken. Start that simmering. I'll quickly sprinkle over. I make my own herb salt, so I sprinkle over some herb salt. I smoke paprika, beautiful. Heap of smoked paprika, or you can do things like lemon and herb, so lemon zest and chives and parsley and that kind of thing, just like all over. Put the lid on and let that start simmering while I chop up veggies. So zucchini, carrots, broccoli, onion, garlic. I chuck the onion in straight away and let that simmer in the sorry, that's my bird.
I can hear. I thought there was a bird going a bit crazy out there.
Sorry, he's very noisy.
Oh, hello.
This is Fred.
Hi, Fred.
He's getting tired of not having any attention. Okay.
Come join us, Fred. All good.
Yeah. Just one layer, and then the veggies on top as you cut them up, like the hard veggies to the soft, bok choy, whatever. I just absolutely pack it as full as I can of veggies, because I try to have on the plates about 1/4 meat and the rest veggies.
Yeah, same. So important. A lot of people say, I can't afford to ditch the grains. It's like, no, you're not doubling the meat, you're doubling the veg.
Yes.
Yeah.
We go through so many veggies. I have to go to the grocery store every second day these days, the little local one near our place, because I'll go in and get 4 heads of broccoli, a cauliflower, 2 bags of carrots, whatever, and my fridge is full. And then I needed it all again in 2 days.
Yeah.
So cabbage, I do a lot of cabbage noodles and zucchini noodles and that kind of thing. So that just goes in and it just all cooks in the one pot, and that's ready in about 20 minutes.
Beautiful.
In the Thermomix, I do things like cauliflower mash.
Yeah.
That takes 20 minutes, and you can have veggies steaming on top at the same time and quickly cook some meat in the frying pan. So that takes about, altogether with preparation, 25 to 30 minutes.
Yeah.
If you're doing something like, let's see, the one that I mentioned before is a bit of a favourite with us, is the mince cooked in a broth. And like I'll use a bit of broth, or if I don't have broth, I'll do water with a bit of that broth of life. And just, chuck all the veggies quartered into the Thermomix. So carrot, zucchini, onion, garlic, celery, those kind of things. Chop it all up for about 3 seconds on speed 5 and tip it in with the mince as it's browned.
Yeah, delicious.
Ginger, sorry, I forgot to mention ginger, fresh ginger in there. Chili, if you can. In gaps at first you can't. And then, the coconut aminos, a little bit of herb salt or veggie stock paste. You might want to put in, other things, but I just make it a bit like an Asian. If you've got good quality fish sauce, you could put a bit of that in, and then let it simmer. And then at the end, I add some kelp noodles and just stir that through. And that again is 20 minutes.
Yeah, wonderful. It's so simple, isn't it? And I think it's really, it can be a bit of a block when you first get started, and it's really just about growing your vocab.
It is. And having those basic ingredients on hand at all times, like you were saying before, it really is simple to do a quick meal. And it might not be fancy and it might not be flash, but it's filling and it's nutritious, and the kids actually love it.
Yeah, exactly. It's comforting. I think everyone just wants to feel satisfied and comforted by the food we eat. And we love soups too. We do a lot of stews and soups and that kind of thing.
first I just put the meat in, cover it with water, and then just start chopping up every single thing I can find in the fridge, all the different veggies, and I just keep chucking them in. And then I add in things like, paprika and salt, my herb salt and pepper. And I forgot to mention, I always chuck in a couple of blobs of good fat at the end. So duck fat or tallow or whatever suits what you're cooking. Yeah, so you've got that fat to fill you up.
Mm. Beautiful. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for chatting to us with your little ideas.
That's okay.
And sharing your journey as well. I know there are quite a few people on the program who registered who were wondering about gaps, and I certainly said that most of the food we'd be covering and some of the people we'd be talking to were totally up with the gaps lingo, so that's great. I will see you, no doubt, any second now online. So it's not really goodbye, but goodbye and thank you from all the people listening who are doing Real Food Rockstars. It's been great chatting to you, and I'll see you soon.
Okay, thanks. Bye, everybody.